Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I am PIT Mac,
And I'm Prophet Andrea, and we are the
the
Roberts.
Roberts. Yeah, that's right, the Roberts. So how y'all doing tonight? Well, Apostle has done it again. She has hit her with a banger. You know, in this series build, she really, she's challenging us. Like she's pulling greatness out of us is what she's doing, man. So, you know, I'm gonna just dive right in because there's so many nuggets she gave us throughout this sermon, and she started off from the gate like your now will get you to your next. Like I don't even know if that was warm up or recap, but she was going and stick to what you are called to without being double minded. Woo! I She was really going in, and she said another one was commit with obedience. Don't just commit, but commit with obedience so that you can be all that God wants you to be. And she was also saying because a double-minded man is unstable in all of his ways, not some of his ways, but all of his ways. So again, stick to what God has called you to do without being double-minded. But tonight's message was about boundaries and boundaries in families. Man, listen, my wife and I can relate to boundaries in families. Uh, One of the things Apostle said that really rings true is that boundaries are good. You know, they are from the Lord. They keep you from killing someone. You hear me? They keep you when you can't keep yourself. Hello, somebody. Huh. But another one, she said, "What is right for you may be wrong for me." You in every situation you got to understand what you're dealing with, and some of the things she was talking about was boundaries in parenting. Like you can't parent all the kids the same way. Like I can't cheat my 15-year-old like I would my 20-year-old because they're two different people.
I mean, they're totally two different children. Like, our daughter's 20, personality is very different. She's a little bit more strong willed, maybe more stubborn. She's definitely gotten a lot more little pats in her life than our 16-year-old son, who's more passive, but he can be a little passive aggressive, right? So you got to kind of deal with each child differently. And one of the things that Apostle said, she spoke about knowing the mood, right, of each person in your house, or knowing the culture of each person in your house. Like, for example, culture, both Mac and I are Black American. Like, our parents were born here, our grandparents were born here. We're totally 100% Black Americans, right? Slave descendants and all that stuff. But ironically enough, both of my parents were from Alabama, and both of his parents were from Alabama, and he actually was born in Alabama, and I was born in New York. So there's a lot of differences with the way that we see things, but we see things enough to be able to get along. Because of where my family is from, we have a lot of the same core values, but I would say that he's a little bit more, I don't want to say old school because I'm old school, but he's a little bit way more old school than me. From that time and era where a look is disrespectful. And to a degree it can be, right? So it's just important that we understand the boundaries within our family or our culture within our family, so that way our families are cohesive, and that can sometimes come off like a rub, right? And not
Yeah.
really allow things to flow the way that it should.
Yeah. And in that, she also said you got to understand the cultures of each other before you can
Hmm.
establish boundaries. Like in our household, we're big on boundaries, man. They love that word boundaries. And coming from, like she said, that old background, like my mama would set a boundary and come across that boundary and dare you to say something. And with these 2022 kids, you can't really do that because culture, as you can't do what we could do back in the day because you know we grew up spare the rod, spoil the child. And, in today's society, that is politically incorrect in some households. But back to what we're talking about. We're talking about boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
Some years back, I read a book by Dr. Henry Cloud and John Townsend called
Mm-hmm.
Boundaries, and it really, really helped me out a whole lot to understand, you know, just when to say no and how to say no, and respecting someone's no as well as their yes. It was a line from the book that says that if someone can respect your yes, then they have to respect your no. Um, Boundaries was a very, very good tool, and there are tons of them. There's boundaries in marriage, boundaries in children, boundaries in family. Like they have so many different series is of boundaries. Excuse me, my country accent is taking over. But definitely you guys need to stay tuned and stay around because I'm excited to see where Apostle's going with this Bill series as she is pushing the limits and pushing the envelope.
Yeah, but not only that, speaking of books, right? So if you know me, you guys will get to know me. I'm a nerd. I like books, I like teaching, I like reading. And one of the things that Apostle mentioned today was for like a homework assignment for those of us here in GPL that she wanted us to read the book Boundaries by Gary Chapman, right? The Five Love Languages by Gary Chapman. All right. And the last time we were on, Apostle gave us another assignment, which was to watch the first 3 episodes of the series on Netflix called Crown. All right, so for those of you that are on GPL Covenant members, be honest if you got a chance to watch that series. And then also make sure that you make it a point to really, really read the book. Now, the reality is in today's society, when it comes to reading and consuming books, we have so many different options, right? I love, love, love ebooks, but I mean paper books, but I also love Audible books. It's easy to get down. So even if you say, all right, I'm going to pop this on Audible and listen to it in the car on the drive to work, right? If our apostle, our leader says, hey, this is something that you guys need to do. She says she don't care if you're married, single, everybody, this is an assignment. So we want to make sure that we're doing that. All right. So the next time we come back on, we're going to say, hey, did you do or have you been reading your book, The Five Love Languages? All right. So we want to make sure that we're consuming and we're taking in the spiritual food that we need to be able to sustain to help us build strong families. Like one of the things Apostle said, that was actually one of the arcs that the Lord did mention that this is a season that we would protect and build was the arc of marriage and family. Amen. So we want to make sure that we're still protecting our family because you can still have a family and not be married, right? You could be a single mom, a single dad, or you can be a single person yourself and still be a family. All right. So everyone is represented here at GPL when we say family. So if you're single and you don't have that, don't think we're not speaking of you because you still are a part of the family. Amen.
Amen. So let's back up. What about when she said sometimes, let's talk about geographical boundaries because she said sometimes you have to leave your land in order to find your wealthy place where your the wealth is because sometimes you're not just received in your land. Um, I'm excited because of that because she also says like that's tied to obedience and as everyone knows, we are transitioning to Jacksonville, Florida. And that is, I'm excited, but it's different because it's like we're uprooting from what we know to follow the Lord. And she also says, you know, we got to be in the right land in order to prosper.
Right.
And I'm telling you guys, make the decisions. If God is telling you to do something, do it. Don't listen to me. Don't take my word for it. Listen to God. Like you want to connect to your tribe and be in the right land because we want to prosper. We want to get the good of the land while we're yet living. So part of that is being obedient and being committing and being obedient to the word of the Lord. So whatever the Lord is telling you to do, do it. Do it and do it and don't get distracted from it. So if he's telling you to move and connect, if he's telling you to get from your people and go to a land which you don't know, trust him, because the provision is in following the instruction.
Yeah, the provision is in following the instruction. It's in your obedience. I mean, you think about it from an Abraham standpoint, right? It's like, where am I going? Like, for example, with me, I own a business, and when I've been recently letting some of my clients know I'm going to be transitioning, I'm moving. Initially, the first thing they say is, "Well, what are you going to do? Well, how are you going to make it? How are you going to get? Well, you're not doing what you're doing anymore." They automatically um, try to, it's not that they're trying to send fear intentionally, but because they don't have that same level of faith, they can try, it can be discouraging, right? So even that's encouragement to you. For example, say you're somebody who watches GPL, on a regular basis, you follow Apostle Dwann, and you have been for years, and you like it. You find yourself on our services on Tuesday night, on our services. Once you see that live button go off on your phone or your notifications, you're on it. That's an indication that she has the nourishment that you need,
Mm.
right? That's an indication that the Lord has put something on the inside of her mouth to speak into your life that for some reason you're gravitating to it. It's kind of like if you crave certain foods. They say scientifically when you begin to crave certain food is because your body needs it. So if you find that you're like craving Apostle Dwann's message, right? It could be very well that there's something in her mouth that is meant to nourish you in this season. And you can't, for example, if you're used to a traditional church mindset, right? I mean, there's nothing wrong. I love traditional church, meaning we're moving, we'll be there on Sunday. So we won't always be virtual. But there are some people that for a season, you may have to be virtual. And to try to get someone who doesn't understand 21st century church, who doesn't understand that you might have to be connected to a global embassy, they may not understand that. And when you say that, their words may be discouraging to you. Your move may not be physical like us. Your move may be a virtual move, but nonetheless, it's still like Abraham because it will challenge you beyond what you thought. You understand what I'm saying? So that's just a sidebar.
So moving your mindset. Sometimes we need to adjust our minds, like the way we think, so that we can be
Right.
transformed by the renewing of our mind. And listen, it ultimately boils down to how bad do you want it?
Mm-hmm.
How bad do you want to? Now, better yet, how Apostle says it, how serious is your mantle? Like, we have to begin to take our mantle serious and chase after it, and not go back before two opinions. Like,
That reminded me.
confusing yourself. Like, why are you still confused? Like, it's either is or it ain't. If God said it, just do it. Like, let's follow God and let's get after what God has for us so that we can eat the good of the land while we're yet living.
Yeah, it's true. Because we're gonna need to eat the good of the land to build, right? We're gonna tie it
Right.
back into into
Bring
the
it back
series,
around.
right? We're gonna eat the good of the land so that we can build everything that God has for us to build in this season. And while we are all building our individual things, our individual businesses, individual arcs, right? We still have to build collectively. Amen. So we are here and excited to be a part and be building what we know God is doing in this season, and that is building. But now we're learning we have to build along with boundaries. So we gotta build with our boundaries in this season. Amen.
Amen. Listen, that's all I got tonight, y'all. You guys got to stay tuned and watch those notifications for Apostle's next sermon on build, as she goes and dives deeper into boundaries and families. So, guys, listen, we are the Roberts, and that's all we got for y'all tonight.
See you next time. Bye.
We out of here. Live, live.
Live, live, we've got it here for you. Come to GPL, let God speak to you.
God is in control, let the whole world know. Releasing prophecy and watch the spirit flow. You got the power, the victory. Fulfill your purpose and destiny. Come learn to love and walk in light. At GPL, we love to follow Christ.